Put the final point up again, please. Go ahead. I can construct different loops there too, even though I do that. I've shown, I took that, if you want it, I can go that with you later on. I'll show you there's different ways of looking at that too. Well, in some sense, no, I understand what you're saying. We can comprehend in some sense, but we can't do it in a perfect sense, even though I'm saying that. No, what you're saying, maybe I'm taking too many liberties here. You might be right. But when I'm saying comprehend, I'm talking about at least we can deal with the world out there. We might, mean the fact we comprehend doesn't mean I have perfect knowledge. We're getting an idea of what's going on there, and hopefully it's better than what somebody else has if we have to deal with it. So I guess maybe I'm using a loose form if that's your point. When I say comprehend, don't say that I've nailed it down. When I use the word comprehend, I'm not saying I've really nailed it down. It means I comprehend something. But to say I've really nailed it down, I wouldn't say that.
Of course, the further we go, less.
Well, we might learn other kinds of things. We might pin some things down, but then they in themselves may generate problems in other areas, which then become a larger context, so then we lose some of the comprehension in a larger sense. In fact, what I've told people, I said, you know what progress is? You've led me into it. I've used this before, and I'm glad you raised that point. You know what I say progress is? Confusion at a higher level. That's what we're talking about here. You see what I'm saying? In a sense, that's what you're hinting at, is confusion at a higher level. Go ahead.
There's one example.
And of course, some people say maybe that's not progress either. I mean, they can chop me on that. That's a good chop, too. Go ahead.
You used an example, John, at a previous session we had, talked about progress, and that the inquisitive, the people who are doing projects such as this, have to be constantly doing it. That is asking the question why to those who think they already know. Progress, the example you used was looking at the F-111, and the offshoot of the F-111 being the new air superiority fighter, which eventually evolved into the F-15. Relate that situation, process going through. But it brought in the 111 or the new design.
You want the hard stuff, or you want the nice presentation? Well, let me tell you what I had to go through. This is a true story, and there's going to be some little rough stuff I'll bring out here, but it should be brought out, because you're going to have to face it. Since you raised the point, remember, let the record show he raised the point, I didn't. What happened was, I was down at Eglin Air Force, and I was known as a Maverick, still am. Some people heard about that. But it turned out they were having trouble with an airplane they called the FX. And they were trying to get a new airplane beyond the 111, the one you're talking about there. Is that what you're getting at? Am I on the right track? Yeah, okay. I just want to be sure I'm on the right track. Okay. And so my initially was on orders to go to Vietnam. My orders were canceled by the chief, and I was brought to the Pentagon by General McConnell. And so they gave me 2 weeks to look at this FX proposal, and asked me for my evaluation. And the reason why they called me up there is because some work got done on energy maneuver building, other previous work, and they liked it. And for some reason, I was also a Maverick, so if I goofed up, they had it both ways. If I did it right, they'd have a good airplane. If I didn't do it, they could throw me out of the Air Force, and I don't think some of them cared which way it went. So, in any case, I got to work on it. I looked at it. Of course, I really had the answer after a week. Really grim. I'm going to tell you how you get involved in this stuff. You're on something very important question. So, how was I going to present my evaluation? And of course they said, and also associated recommendations, easy to make evaluations, always easy part. So my problem was not so much with the evaluation and recommendation, but how was I going to present it to get their attention? And so what happened was, I got to use some rough words here, ladies, because I had to get their attention. Sometimes you got to be mean. Because I knew they'd try to do it cosmetically. The whole idea up there is to do it cosmetically and pretend they do something new, and I had to get around that, and I knew that. So what happened was that I'm thinking about this, see. I just arrived in the Pentagon, and so I thought it over. I said, wait a minute, if I get rough, they'll throw me out, and I don't want to be here anyway, so I got a good deal. So what happened was is I went in, and two things happened. First of all, to show you how the system works on you, was I was told I was going to have to render a report. I said, great. Of course, I knew what they were thinking, but I know what I'm thinking. And so the day before I could make my presentation to a higher level, I was a major going to a senior colonel. Why, this junior colonel comes in and he says, well, you haven't submitted your report. Your written report. I said, I'm not going to submit a written report. You said submit a report. I'm submitting a report. It's an oral report. You didn't say written. I'm giving an oral report. And it's on this yellow pad here. I didn't have charts. And my writing is terrible. I have a hard time reading it. And I deliberately wanted it that way because this guy was in a previous project that screwed up the airplane. And so if I submit it through him, he's going to pull out all the stuff that I want there, and we're going to get a cosmetic thing. So I had a decision to make. So he got mad. He said, well, you're not going to get away with this. I said, well, fine. I don't want to be here anyway. So I had nothing to lose. So then he goes up and sees the senior colonel, and he calls me. He says, I understand you don't have a report. I said, that's incorrect. It's not a written report. It's a well-thought-out report. In any case, you can make your evaluation while I've thought it out, and we'll proceed from there. He's fair enough. So I went in. I was afraid of this guy. I'm not afraid of him mentally, but afraid that he might draw the wrong conclusion. I want to be sure he drew the right conclusion. In fact, this is going to come out in a book. It's coming out, so I might as well bring it out now. It's going to be in a book coming out here in the next couple of weeks. I'd heard it was in there. I'm not sure. You might as well hear it from the horse's mouth. I don't know how correct they have it. In any case, I went in there, closed the door. I didn't want to have the secretary listen to my nasty words. And I said, look, I'm going through this very carefully. I said, you know what? I've never designed an airplane before, but I could fuck up and do better than this. He went straight up. That's exactly the impact I wanted to get. Get him mad. Because now he's going to have to listen carefully if he wants to take me out. On the other hand, if I got it right, I'm going to force him my way. Let the record show you raise it. In any case, what happened was I went through it, and the key thing that I did in the evaluation, I said, okay, let me lay out the 111, because that's the airplane we're going to replace. So I laid out the fundamental characteristics. So go to the blackboard. I had my chart, had them all laid out. I said, have I said anything incorrect? Is it enough there we can make sense of it? He said, yeah. Okay. Now, let me lay out the so-called FX you're going to use to replace it, which is now we're down to the hard note. I laid out those characteristics. He said, okay. I said, is this the airplane you want? I said, now, if this is the airplane you want, I said, this is easy. I said, we don't even have to make this airplane. I can go back. I can show you what I used on the 111. I can show you how to do the wing. I can make some changes on that. It'd be very cheap, and we can get this 10% increase just by changing the 111. Well, then he got even madder. Of course, I wanted him mad. I said, in other words, you don't like this 111. He says, absolutely not. I said, how can you like this FX? How can you defend this piece of trash? That's what I called it. Now I had his attention. I got him locked in. See? He said, well, I can't. He said, what are you trying to tell me? I said, white piece of paper, start over. Oh, my God, I thought he was going to have a heart attack. I said, we're talking about a white piece of paper. This is garbage. So he looked at me. I remember that. Wait, he just looked at me. I said, well, if you don't like it, I said, I'm not your guy. I said, get some jerk in here. He'll make it 10% better, and you'll think you got something new. He said, okay. He said, I want you to brief it exactly the way you briefed it to me. Take it down to General Dempster, who started. He said, oh, incidentally, don't leave out about the part in the beginning about fucking up. That I want in there definitely, because I want to see his reaction like you looked at mine. He said, I'm ordering you to do that. Okay. Vice Dempster went through the roof. You can't talk that way up here. I mean, well, you got mad. And Richie, to his credit, says, I ordered him to do that. And the reason why, because I want you to listen carefully to the rest of it. And he bought it all. So we changed, and the history of that is, and we wiped out, started all over, did some real trade-offs. That was all phony baloney. And we initially had a 60,000-pound airplane. That was only on paper, too, with variable sweep.